My guest today is actress Meredith Thomas, who spent her early childhood in Alaska and one of the northernmost settlements in North America, where her parents taught Inuit grade school students through the Bureau of Native Affairs. Now, Meredith's first professional acting role was actually Tessie in Annie, which came while she was still in elementary school, but she continued to act in summer stock productions in the Northeast throughout her youth, but soon headed west, securing a role in her first big budget feature film, Pleasantville, as a teenager, and she hasn't stopped working in film and television since. Now, Meredith is known for the quirky blonde beauty with the girl next door charm and wit, and it's no wonder she has become a television movie favorite. She is second only to Vivica A. Fox in the number of Lifetime television movies. And now, with chops for both comedy and drama, you'll find her easily transitioning between thrillers to Christmas holiday movies. And Meredith Thomas is back this holiday season with two new rom-com movies, including the Netflix release The Merry Gentleman and the Lifetime movie Make or Bake Christmas, opposite of Vivica A. Fox. And she continues to spread even more holiday cheer with several returning Christmas titles available on Peacock, as well as Great American Family and Amazon Prime. So, ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome the star of the silver screen, actress Meredith Thomas, to the show. Welcome, Meredith. How are
Well, thank
you?
you so much. I'm doing well. As it's my favorite time of year, and I guess you can imagine why.
Well, I have to ask because I know that you grew up in the northernmost parts of Alaska, which I guess every Christmas would have been a white Christmas. But
hmm
I had just did an interview with a film director about the Inuit. So I'm kind of curious, did you go to school with them as your parents taught the school, or was it one of the residential schools which was common in Canada?
No, it was. I went to school with Inuit. The tribe was Inupiat, and I went by. I didn't even go by Meredith for my first 7 years. I had my name was Chuki, which was a version of it kind of roughly translated from Inupiat. It was supposed to, as Junior, although Junior is more like Yuk, but since it became Chuki because I'm named after my dad, and I guess everyone thought I looked like my dad, so I went by Chuki until I moved down to the lower 48 at 7 years old.
Well, I was kind of wondering, how did you make your way from Alaska to an island off the coast of New Hampshire?
Well, my parents actually met in New Hampshire. My my mom was born and raised there, and my dad was a child of a Navy brat, I guess they would say. And he ended up, my grandfather ended up at the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard, which is actually right across the way from Newcastle. It's actually in Maine, though they call it the Portsmouth Naval Shipyard. Portsmouth is in New Hampshire. But so my parents met in New Hampshire, and then the story, I was telling the story wrong apparently for many years. I thought it was my dad's idea to go up to the village in Alaska because my dad ended up staying there for 30 something years, and he hunted and fished, and so I always thought it was my dad who said we should go to Alaska. But it turns out that when they were researching work through the Bureau of Indian Affairs, they my mom said, "Well, why don't we go to Alaska instead of being on some, hot reservation in Arizona or New Mexico or something?" And so that's how that happened. And then when my parents split up, my dad stayed in Alaska, and my mom, brother, and I went back to New Hampshire, where she had been born and raised. And I'm technically born in I mean, not technically. I'm born in New Hampshire, but we I moved up there when I was 6 months old. My brother was born in what they used to call Barrow. Now it has an Inupiat name that I can't say well, so I won't even try.
Yeah, I was taught for about 5 minutes from the film director on how to pronounce certain Inuit words, and they are not easy to say the least. But what an experience to be from one end of the country and then back to the other. But then you
Mhm.
ended up in Hollywood as a teenager. So how did that journey happen?
Well, I had studied a year at the University of New Hampshire, and my parents had basically said, you know, why don't you? We know you want to be an actress, but why don't you study drama and you can be a theater teacher like all of your role models? Because I had thrown myself into arts education from pretty much from grade school on. And so I secretly was like, okay, that was the 5 year plan. Go to school 5 years. So I had my teaching certificate, and then I was like, okay, that'll be what I'll pretend to do, and then I'll end up in Hollywood. And so I went to the University of New Hampshire, and I threw myself into the theater program there. And then the summer after my first year, I did summer stock theater at a little place in Maine. And many of the people that I was doing summer stock with, I had done summer stock with when I was in junior high school. And I just thought, I'm really scared that I'm going to not have, that I'm going to be too afraid to leap to this, to, and be an actress. So I just decided that while I was young and hungry and stupid, I would just go to California. But the way there was through education, because I knew my parents were not going to just let me go off to California. So I secretly went and auditioned for the American Academy of Dramatic Arts, and they have a West Coast school, and it's the oldest acting conservatory in the English speaking world. It's older than the Royal Academy of Dramatic Arts. And so I took my parents to dinner, and I threw out this program that showed all the celebrities that went there, going back to Grace Kelly and Robert Redford and Lauren Bacall. And I just said, I'm going. I got in, I'm going. And here's the deal. I promise if I don't get invited back for the second year, I will come back and I will finish my degree in New Hampshire. So I took a leave of absence from the University of New Hampshire, and I went off to California, having never been to LA. And my dad came down from Alaska and met me there and got me settled in. And I did get invited back for that second year. So I never went back to the University of New Hampshire. And I pretty much have been here ever since.
You know, I looked at your resume because it is so long, which is a
Yes.
great thing for an actress because it's very rare in even in today. I mean, when you look at SAG for an example, maybe only 1 or 2% can actually truly be classified as full time actors. You fit into that category, and your first big picture was Pleasantville. What was it like walking onto the set for the first time, but also being around with the likes of people like William H. Macy and Jeff Daniels, and well, even Tobey Maguire was a kid back then, as well as Reese
Right.
Witherspoon, and even Paul Walker was in that film.
Paul Walker was in the film. Joan Allen, who's an amazing actress. So it was, I mean, I am not exaggerating when I tell you it was kind of like living a dream. So I I get into Pleasantville, and it was this, I was living in West Hollywood at the time. It was this beautiful drive out to the canyons of Malibu, and I'd be driving out there, we'd have early call time, so I'd see the sun come up, and sometimes I would take the water route and sometimes I'd take the canyon route, but either way it was a beautiful drive. And I'm driving to set, and this built a little they had built the town out in this canyon in this park in Malibu that I believe, and I could be wrong, but the story went that many years ago, because it was a lot of years ago, that I believe that was the same place that they shot MASH, because it was just open enough to kind of create. any place, so I mean, it was, and then I'd sit there and I'd get my hair and my makeup done 1950s, and the wardrobe was just perfect. And it was just, and then it was the same people every day for weeks. And it was because this kind of core group of high school students, and it was just an absolute dream. I still get residuals on it. I still have people that, see it. I had one line which was didn't make it into the film, but I still, like I said, the residuals still come. And I think it was way ahead of its time. I think it was such a beautiful film. I think it passed its 25 years a few years ago, and they did a re-release of it. And
Yeah, it was
um,
1998, I believe,
oh my heavens, the 90s.
which to me
The
still seems
1900s.
yeah, the 90s to me is like, oh yeah, that was just a few years ago, not realizing that we're now looking at the fact that we've been in the 2000s almost 25 years.
It
So,
blows my mind. Yeah.
yeah, it's like looking back and you thinking some of the the rock songs that came out back in the day and we're like, "Oh my gosh, that was 40 years ago." And so it's still hard to fathom where we're at today, but for you, because and we'll use Pleasantville as an example. Back in the day, it would take months to do a feature film. Now it only takes maybe 3 or 4 weeks. So you've seen this drastic change in the film industry. How did you keep up?
Well, some of it kicking and screaming. The hardest transition for me was when COVID hit and everything became us taping at home. I had never Zoomed before COVID. Yeah, so it was, and I really like to be around people. So that transition, after doing years and years in the trenches and getting to see my peers and hug them and say hello, um, to finally to then being confined to your bedroom, or not your bed, like your own living room, to do these auditions and prepare by yourself and not get that one-on-one feedback and get to meet the directors. That was really, really hard. That was the hardest part for me, because every other thing, you just, I mean, I was never one that would be first. Like, I remember when we transitioned to that you could actually click and submit, and I didn't have to stuff my headshot and resume in a 8 by 10 into an envelope. So some of that just happened naturally. It was like, okay, I had a pager. Then I finally forced myself to get a cell phone. And then I finally started clicking and submitting, even though I had stuffed envelopes for many years. So I was one that was like, oh, come on, this will never last. And I hated self tapes before COVID. This will never last. And I remember kind of having to have a conversation with myself that said, you're going to have to, I know you don't like taping at home. But you don't have an option. You either leave this industry or you learn to adapt to where it is. And so I did. I still would rather be in the room. I would rather put on my makeup, drive an hour on the 405, walk in there for a 2-minute audition, and then be in traffic for another hour on the way home. I would still rather, because I love people and I love that connection that I make with people when I'm out in the world. Now that just has to happen on set now.
Well, as an actress, did you have to make any type of changes in your technique going from a live audition versus a self tape?
Um, Yes, well, I think the biggest was the technical aspect. I'm used to picking out the right wardrobe. I'm used to learning the lines. I'm used to doing the hair and makeup for the auditions. So all of that, but when you're doing the hair and makeup just alone in your house, knowing it's just going to be a camera in front of you, so figuring out the camera, the lighting, um, all doing all of that, figure giving being your own kind of director, self-directing, because no one's giving you the readjust in the room. So that was probably the hardest part. And now there are people, there's young people that came in this industry that that's all they know, and I think they're probably much better at the self taping than I am, or but so that, yeah, technically it was a pain, because sometimes you really feel like you're producing a mini movie in your living room, and you can get resentful because I'm the makeup artist, I'm the light I'm the makeup artist, I'm the director, I'm the costumer, I'm the lighting person, and then I'm the editor. So um it's been what, 4 years now, so I'm doing it, and I one thing I loved about the pandemic is I got a lot more direct offers. So that was kind of nice for me.
Well, you have the resume to get the direct offers without having to go through the hassle of doing an audition.
Yeah, those are really nice, and about half of the time, well, for film and television, a little more than half of the time at this point, it's a direct offer, which is just really nice. To
Yeah,
just see that offer come in, and just not having had to put myself on tape for it.
yeah. I mean, were you the type that would, it's like if you go in for a live audition, it's usually one take, or they may ask you to do another one for a different style or whatever. But then with self tapes, people do 10 or 20 of them until they figure that, okay, this is the one I like, this is the one I'll send in. But you don't know if that's the one that they're going to like.
Yeah, you don't know that, and then sometimes you'll send a couple of different options. I was talking to a dear friend of mine who's a casting director the other day, and he said he had live auditions recently, and it was for younger people, and he said you could tell that most of these young people, this was their first time in a live audition. Like they didn't know that you don't just show up and walk in the room. Like they didn't know to sign in. And why would you? When so it there are good things about it, because one, you can really make sure you give the best take. But that can sometimes be maddening, because if I went in the room, I'd be prepared. I'd get two takes. I'd walk away and I'd let it go. Here, I'm like take after take, judging myself. One little mistake, I'm doing it over. Where you have one little mistake in the room, you go with it. Nobody notices. You just keep, and you do the best you can. So it's both of them have their drawbacks and their perks. I much prefer for commercial auditions to really be in the room, because there's such a short span of time, and I have a better booking ratio for when I get in the room for commercials than when I do them at home. Um, Theatrically, I think they can get a good sense, but I just love, I just, I miss being luckily I'm out in the world again a lot now with social stuff, but I miss that social element of the audition.
Yeah, I've heard that from a lot of seasoned actors. They would still rather walk into the room, do it, and then leave, and then just let the chips fall where they may. Because you started your career very, very young, was it a positive for you because you learned rejection early instead of some of the people coming in? Let's say they don't start acting until their early 20s and they don't understand how to handle rejection.
I I think so. I you yeah you realize that you do the best you can, and when you're doing it, so when you're starting so young, and you realize it's kind of a numbers game, and um so yeah, I think that is true, that I realized that um there's a certain amount of, the closer you get, the harder it is to be like, oh, okay, it went to someone else. But when you're just doing a lot of auditions, um, he was like, okay, I do the best I can. My number will hit at some point. Um, and I don't know, I can't remember ever being that phased by the rejection, which is, and maybe I just blocked it out.
That's pretty well, yeah, but that's a really great thing because I was talking to an actor the other day and he told me, he goes, rejection? So what? He goes, I've been doing this since I was 5 years old. I got over that a long time ago. So I think if you
Yeah,
start young, it's better. But for a lot of them, they don't start until they're 18 or 19. And then it's like, nobody likes me, but it's just the nature of the game. And like you said, it can be a numbers game. But for you, because you have done so much film and television, how many films do you average a year now?
oh goodness. I
That's a
don't
good
know.
sign if you have to think about it.
Yeah, I mean, I'd have to look.
Three to four?
Yeah, four, maybe 4 or 5 or 6 television movies a year.
That's pretty good because I know that I counted, you did, I think, thrillers this year, three drama thrillers this year, and two new Christmas movies. So that's five. That's a pretty good amount of work.
Yes, I have been really, really lucky. I don't, is lucky the word? I mean, we stick around long enough. I mean, I heard there's this casting director that I I knew years ago. She still casts soap operas, and she's from Boston, and so she still had this great Boston accent. And her dad was a police officer, and I remember her saying in a class I took with her one time, you know, talent is like murder. Sooner or later, they're gonna figure it out. They're gonna find you. And I was like, yeah, if you stick around long enough, they're gonna. If you stick around long enough and they're gonna find you. They're gonna figure it out. And I guess I believed that for me anyway.
Well, the great thing is if you're in multiple movies, they're being shown on television on a regular basis. You have a casting director sitting at home, flipping through channels, and as long as they see your face on a continuous basis, that's just a good thing. So it's like
Yeah,
free advertisement.
yeah. It's good. It's being on. Yeah, I have to remind myself, and I'm like I have but I gather quotes like cafeteria style that keep me going in my life. And another one, um, I don't remember who said it, but I think I read it in an article, and someone said, every time you hold that script in your hand, do you realize how many other fingerprints have been on that script? Like, and now it's different because it's all digital and everything, but the idea that when you get it finally and you're the actor to play the role, how many other people have auditioned and tried to um, get that role? And so I'm just every time I walk on set, I don't take it for granted. I mean, the not only how many other people how hard it is to get on television, and how many other people would want that role, and then also how many people around you are helping to make this happen.
Yeah, it does take a huge effort, and that's one reason why I just love the film community because everybody wants to work with one another.
Hmm.
I love film due to the fact that we're never going to run out of films or TV series to watch. There's always going to be something new coming on. But this year, you won the jury prize at a Royal Chance Film Festival with Jack Maxwell for Spirit
Yeah.
Quest, as well as the jury prize at the Global Film Festival Revolution for Stacks. Tell me about those projects.
Oh, okay. Well, I'll go back to Stacks, and then we'll talk about Stacks, and then Jacks. Um, so Stacks was shot. So I'll have to send you the link so you can see it, because it was very timely. It's a comedic short about the pandemic. And I worked with a casting director and producer who I had worked with many, many times. His name is Gerald Webb. He's actually the person who cast me in A Christmas in Vermont, which was the beginning of my Christmas movie journey. So Gerald and I have been known each other for 20 years probably. And I was actually on a movie March of 2020. I had one more day going to that I had to go to set to finish up my role. It was a Lifetime movie. I I had my call time and everything, and I got a text from the assistant director, and like, we're shut down, because we're on set and we're talking about this thing that's happening, and should we be worried, and we were being really careful, but and then all of a sudden one day left, we're shut down. And which meant that I suddenly was able to be there. I was able to go and be there for this 7-minute short about COVID that we were shooting at the garage of Gerald's office. And I remember we literally got that movie shot. We wrapped like 12 hours before the lockdown in LA. I mean, I was spray. I remember it was like it was. We didn't. No one knew what we were in for, but um, I remember spray, like people getting out of the cast, getting out of the elevator, and saying this. The thing was sticky. I go, that's because I just Lysoled it, and like we had our craft service, and everything was bagged. I mean, we were anticipating, but we didn't know what we were in for. So we did that and we shot it, and it was just really timely because it's a comedy about the whole about COVID. And we got it out there in the world, and continued to just get it out there in the world. We even were on the daytime Emmy ballot that year, and um, our lead actor, 30-year pro in this industry, got his first Emmy nomination from that thing that we shot, 12 hours before lockdown in LA. So that was great fun. It's one of the few projects that I've produced along with Spirit Coast with Jack Maxwell that I'm not in. So I was solely a producer on that. And then Spirit Quest was with Jack Maxwell is crazy because Jack and I knew each other 20 years ago. I used to work at an acting school. It was kind of a networking place where you would meet different industry people and take classes with them. And Jack was doing the workshops there, and he was my client. And I remember, and then we didn't see each other for 20 years, and through a mutual friend who I reconnected with through the Television Academy, the Emmys, um, my friend told me about what Jack had been up to, and he said he beat cancer and he was on this show, um,
He was a booze traveler.
yeah. And I was like, oh, how interesting, his friend info. And then it wasn't until we kind of we started to lock down, kind of we're coming out of the lockdown, that Jack and I were at this mutual friend's birthday dinner, and we reconnected there. And that's how Spirit, we did a little project where we played ghost hunters. It was really fun. And then when Jack was putting together Spirit Quest, um, I I was, at this point, I was second unit directing for Lifetime, and I, had produced some stuff. And so I remember just saying, hey, do you need anything? Like what would you like from, do you need any help? And it was kind of a feeling of like, he didn't want to ask, but he was so glad that he was like, I don't want to put you out, but and I was like, yeah, no, I'd love to do that. And so Jack was really a master. I mean, he put that project together so quickly. And then we went down and we spent 10 days in San Diego. And I can tell you that rarely do projects, especially with so many locations, so many moving parts, and shooting in a city that we're not in at the time, plus having a celebrity involved. Um, it was amazing. It really went off without a hitch, which is, to say that as a producer director is very rare. And a lot of that was just, I mean, prior to getting that down there, Jack had dotted every I and crossed every T, and we went down there just so ready to shoot this thing. And it came out great. I don't know if you've seen the pilot or if you've seen the trailer, but
I saw the trailer because I've interviewed Jack twice,
okay.
and I think the second time he had sent me the trailer on Spirit Quest, and it wasn't finished yet. And I know
Ah,
that if I remember correctly, he's looking at possibly one of the networks, maybe the cable networks, to pick it up.
that's what we're doing. Yeah, we really just want to get it, get a network. I mean, the dream would be to really get it to go to a full season. But it's funny that we're talking about, because I haven't even told Jack yet. Like we we're actually playing. Spirit Quest is actually playing at a festival in Bangladesh this weekend. Um, I just got the schedule. Obviously, neither of us will be there this weekend in Bangladesh, but it's like a prominent festival that's been around for 17 years, and I just got the schedule. And um, so we haven't been doing so much of the festival push recently, but this is something that was a festival that we got into months and months ago that was postponed. And so it's our first live, I think it's our first live international festival that we'll be playing at,
That
because
is fantastic.
there's online festivals. But yeah, we were both asked back to be judges of the New York City Web Fest. We went last year for the 10th anniversary to New York. We were nominated for Best Pilot. We were nominated for Best Guest Star for Sammy Hagar, and we won. Jack won for Best Host for the festival. And so we went back as judges for this year's festival.
That's fantastic because I know Jack is a fantastic host. So that doesn't surprise me at all. And who doesn't love Sammy Hagar? So I actually saw the photo of him and Jack on Instagram. And so, I mean, you can't beat the Red Rocker anyway. But for you, I mean, it's you and Vivica A. Fox. You're the acting queens of the Lifetime movies. How did that even happen?
It's so funny. I always say, I always joke. I say I'm the lady in waiting. You know, Vivica's the queen. I'm the lady in waiting of Lifetime. So how? So well, Vivica is just a smart businesswoman, and so she has been working with Hybrid, who produces the majority of my Christmas movies and the majority. They're called Hybrid Presents, is the production company that did The Merry Gentleman. They did Make or Break Christmas. They're the ones that got me into the Christmas movie genre. They're the producers of A Christmas in Vermont with Chevy Chase. So they have been amazing for my career. And so the first Lifetime movie that I have ever did after doing the Christmas movie for them was part of the whole Wrong series that Vivica now executive produces. So um, I I did the Wrong Crush, and that was my introduction to David Dakota, who directs all the Wrong movies now, and Vivica produces them. So that just happened because I we both started working with the same director, who continues to work with us. She produces, and then that same director is the same person that I've done all my second unit stuff with. So it was just a matter of getting in with a really supportive production company that is supportive of women producing and directing, and yeah, it's just been really nice. But she is a powerhouse. I mean, and she creates such a really lovely work environment. She gets it done, but she gets it done with a smile and grace, and yeah, so I've just been really lucky
That
to.
is fantastic because I love female filmmakers. And I've
Mhm.
interviewed so many of them. And hopefully, one of these days, the Academy will finally start paying far more attention because I know that at this past Oscars for 2024, there was only one female director in the Best Director category. And one of these days, it should be more.
Excuse me.
No, that's all right. That's all right. But yeah, there's, people talk about diversity, they talk about equality in film. They're still behind. And, but thank goodness for the independent filmmakers because they are the ones that are bringing forth so many great films and movies. But, even with Lifetime, there's Hallmark. Uh,
Mhm.
that's a pretty good gig to have.
Yes, yeah, and because they there's a whole group of people that are really into. I'm into it too. I like the Dateline and all of I like the real life murder stuff, but kind of piggybacking off of the people that love that, Lifetime has kind of gotten realizing that that's what a certain a demographic likes. They do these thrillers too. So they're either they're either the rom-com Christmas movies or the opposite, which is the thriller. But there's definitely, it's surprising to me how many people out there really watch these Lifetime movies. I mean, I knew the Christmas movies have their place, but I'm shocked when people say, "Oh, no, no, no." Like, I think, why do you want a picture with me? Oh, we know who you are. We've seen all your movies, and I'm still kind of shocked by but there's a lot of people. There's a lot of people that watch them.
Yeah, because I know that you had three thrillers this year. One, A Nanny to Die For. Are those the type of thrillers that are shown on Lifetime?
Yes, yeah, it's all of that, all the wrong movies. A Nanny to Die For is actually my first one to go to Peacock, which was really neat. So it's a lead role and it went to Peacock, whereas most of my thrillers have been at Lifetime. So that was really cool to have a new network pick up one of the thrillers. But yeah, Nanny, they're all like A Nanny to Die For, Killer Advice, The Wrong Blind Date, The Wrong Crowd, The Wrong Boy Next Door. I've done so many wrong movies that my dad calls me up and he'll just say, so how's the wrong car running? How's the wrong dog?
I love that. And, one of the things that I've learned about Lifetime, even Hallmark, they know how to film a high end movie on a low budget. Now, low budget could be less than 500,000.
Mhm.
But they know how to do it and it keeps them from going into debt like Netflix. Netflix is probably hundreds of millions of dollars in debt just trying to pump out as much film as they can because they have to feed the beast, which is us.
Right, right. Yeah, they have to give us content, and if you attach the Netflix name, we have an expectation. Um, yeah, it's been especially second unit directing. It's been a really interesting to see, to I've learned so much, one, about how important casting is, because I mean, obviously I'm an actor, but now I've had the opportunity to see when you work at a certain pace at a film, you there's a certain, you want an actor that understands that pace and that knows how to show up, know your lines back and forth, hit your mark, not a whole lot of chatter on set. I've learned a lot. Like, I'm a better actor. I'm a better person to work with, having, you know, been in this genre now for a while.
Well, you are starring in two brand new Christmas movies this season. You have Netflix's The Merry Gentleman, which I have seen, and
Okay.
Lifetime's Make or Bake Christmas. Of course, the latter one is with Vivica A. Fox. So both of you team up together to add another film uh, to your resume. So tell me about both those films today.
So, well, The Merry Gentleman is Netflix. It's also the hybrid who I mentioned before. So the director Peter, I'd actually never worked for him before. He has produced many of my films. He's even been the person that wrote the story for many of my films. But this was so fun because it was the first time I got to work with Peter. Um, and I got I didn't know when I got the script that Netflix was behind it. I just knew that it was a director's name that I knew because I know this production company. I've worked with them many times. I knew. So it was like a wonderful Christmas gift to me because it just kept getting better because and I auditioned this. I fought for my role there. I had to prove myself. So I initially had read for one role, and and then I got a second role to audition for, and I'm like, well, I think this is a good sign, you know. They clearly want to put me in here somewhere, and ended up getting the second role that I read for, and um like I said, knew a lot of the team, but it wasn't until I went to my wardrobe fitting with a woman who I'm friendly with, who does a lot, who does the wardrobe. She did Make or Bake, she did The Merry Gentleman. And so I've known her since I started my Wrong movies. And she was like, "Oh, this is Netflix." I was like, "Oh my gosh." So just, it's like we like a brand name. And not to disparage Lifetime or Hallmark or Ion, who I've done a bunch of my Christmas movies for. I mean, amazing. Being on network television, I will never take it for granted. So, but it was just all of a sudden, it was like, oh wow. And then I was trying to figure out who was in it, and so as I start to find out the cast, I was like, oh, this is a bigger deal than I thought it was. This is really exciting. Um, and it was amazing that got to work with some people that I hadn't worked with before, but that are part of this whole genre. And Yeah, it was great fun. So I got to be, I got to kind of be the bad bad big city boss that kind of is the catalyst for her having to go home, and then in turn, Britt Robertson save her family's struggling music venue. So that was fun. I like to play the bad girls because I used to always be cast as the good girl. So it's fun. And then I got to play kind of an opposite type of character on Make or Bake with Vivica and Jack A. Harry. We, you know, and I got like a B storyline of a like love, middle aged love, woohoo! So I got to have a love interest in John. Oh, I switched over. I moved myself too far. John Bradell, who was played in my first Wrong movie, was my husband, and he died in that. Got to come back as my fiance in Make or Bake, and we've worked together a bunch, but it was really fun. And so not only did I get to, you know, have the be attached to the bakery, I got to have a surprising love connection. Which, when I first read it, I didn't think it was going in that direction. I thought he was going to be a bad guy. So it was nice. It was really nice to have two pretty opposite, like small town single mother in Make or Bake, and then big city. woman that has to fire the ingenue.
Well, the great thing about Christmas movies is that they have extremely long uh, longevity on air. And of course, with Lifetime, they'll do what, Christmas in July?
Yes, Christmas in July, and even some of a lot of my movies end up going to Canada too. To It's called Heart and Home on Super Channel, which is kind of like their Hallmark. So I have one of my movies from last year premiering in Canada this year. So that's fun because that's a whole other audience. And yeah, but so they do a Christmas in July, and Lifetime does a Christmas in July, and so yeah, that's awesome to watch them come back twice a year. I call my older ones, they're not old, but like my new Christmas classics, a Christmas in Vermont, a Christmas in Royal Fashion, that come back every year.
I love that. So, what is your favorite Christmas memory?
Wow, I have to. I don't even. It's not even a it's a memory of a story, I think. So in Alaska, one year we they some of the this my dad's students gave my dad a husky puppy, and he is born outside, and so the first time that he was inside was when he came in for as a Christmas present. And he went to the bath. They woke up to having he gone to the bathroom all over the presents. So his name became Anak, which is the name of what he did to which is the in, in Inupiaq word for what he did to the presents. And he was my first dog, and I have a huge love for dogs. And he was a classic looking husky with two different color eyes, and I think of, to this day, I am absolutely in love with dogs and have rescued like 15 dogs just since the pandemic began. I'm so huge into saving dogs from euthanasia, the high kill shelters here in LA. And I have an elderly foster fail pit bull. Her name is Cher. And but this is also the first Christmas in many, many years that I'll not have an additional foster with me, because I'm focusing on Cher and her health. But for all of the pandemic, I had dog after dog living with me until they found their perfect home, and that included puppies, and that included one dog that, as soon as I saw it and it had two different colored eyes, I was like, I'll take it. I'll take it because I think of and I also still, and I think that Christmas is the same. It may be the same Christmas that I got this bear, which I still have, named Chiriola. He's called Chiriola because I couldn't say cherry cola. And I would always ask, I want some Chiriola, I want some Chiriola. So I still have that bear. It is very, very well loved and needs to be washed. But if he was washed, he would disintegrate. So those are my two Barrow, really, really white, dark Christmas memories.
Well, I love those kind of memories. And what would you like Santa to bring you for Christmas?
Oh, it sounds so cliched. I just really, really want there to be peace on earth. I really, really don't. I, I don't. There's so many active wars right now on the planet, and I know it's so funny because this young man follows me on one of the social media emailed me the other day, and he said to me, is there anything you want me to pray for? It was so great. I said, yeah. could you just pray for peace on earth? So I have everything. I'm like my parents. Like, I have everything I need and then some. Um, so yeah, I don't need, I don't need anything. I mean,
I
I
no,
do.
I love it. I agree
I'll
with
take,
you. We need.
I'll take, how about that? I'll take, okay, peace on earth and maybe another Super Bowl commercial. How about that?
Hey, that works. That works. Well, that kind of leads into the last question here.
Consumerism and peace. How about
I
that?
love it. I love it. So that actually leads into my last question. What's next for you in 2025?
So it's such a manic business, right? Because after all these years, I still have to remind myself, you will work again. You will work again. You just have to look there. You'll always find a way and work will come. So I have my goals so right now, I have a clean slate. I have no jobs in January. However, I'm working really hard um, to try to get this wonderful movie scene. It's called Premarital. I spent 3 weeks in Michigan shooting it. It was an absolute dream. Um, I love being on location. They take you out there. They put you up in a hotel. I'm off of Lake Michigan. Um, I don't have to think about anything but my acting. I don't have to think about cleaning my house it's just amazing. And that was a really, really special project that I did with Jim O'Hare, who was he's most known for Parks and Recs. And so he plays my husband, and it's just a lovely family comedy. And I'm a mother of five, and I got to work with the most wonderful actors who play my children that I just fell in love with every one of them and already loved Jim. And because we had worked together years and years ago, I was practically an extra on a film that he starred in years ago. And it's just really special and it has a lot of heart. And now my goal is to get that into a major festival or two so that we can really share this with the world.
I love it. And now is it a full feature film or a short?
Feature film. Yeah, it's a feature film. Yeah, it's just really, really lovely. So we're hoping, uh, like I said, to get it into one or two festivals. And then from there, hopefully we'll get it distributed. Same with Spirit Quest. Let's just get that. Let's get both of those out there and let the world see them. That would be another good goal.
Oh
Christmas gift.
yeah.
Both of those. There we go. Peace on earth and film festivals and Super Bowl commercials. There we go.
That's it. That is it. And ladies and gentlemen, Meredith Thomas stars in two new Christmas movie specials this season. One on Netflix, The Merry Gentleman, which you will absolutely love. I've already seen it, so I can tell you by guarantee that when you see it, you'll love it. And the Lifetime movie that I still need to see, Make or Bake Christmas. And both films are just great for this wonderful holiday season. Again, they're warm, they're funny, they're endearing. And Meredith, I want to thank you so much for taking the time and sharing a bit about your life and your film with us today. And may you have a very Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year.
Merry Christmas. Happy New Year to you. Thank you so much. And yeah, thanks.
Hey, all right, ladies and gentlemen, you better get your list into Santa because the time's getting close. And I want to thank all of you for watching, ladies and gentlemen. And as for me, you'll either see me at the movies or from the red carpet.